Yellow! It's my man Xu Xiao Dong back on his rampage, striking fear into the hearts of those who've built an empire based upon flashy fight scenes found in the Ip Man movie. Now I do see some effectiveness for this style if you take away the cushioning effect found in boxing or MMA gloves, and also only if the person is predominantly a stand-up fighter with minimal or no training. I think the little body weight distribution and weird complicated techniques used to generate power have less effectiveness versus those who've adopted a simpler and more direct philosophy. Example, we throw a football, baseball, even have a golf swing, all with a similar philosophy. Pivot from the ground up, driving hips into the motion, and it's no coincidence we see the same philosophy with a textbook punch. To make a point of how inefficient the punches were versus Xu was literally mocking his opponent by raising his guard and allowing his opponent to flurry shots, thus hurt his hand on his forehead and skull crown. Basically portions of the skull that are simply much harder than the human hand. Now that Xu has made his point and his opponent stops to acknowledge what just happened, slip overhand, a textbook counter versus a committed jab. Following with his lead, the opponent gets dazed, which causes him to tie up as an involuntary response. The shot probably made him lose footing and he needs to recover. Now, the famous Wing Chun master has entered territory he does not want to be in. Step pivot, hip toss. Obviously, these rules favor the Wing Chun master as the referee stepped in to momentarily stop the fight. If this was more along the lines of MMA rules or was closer to a real fight, Xu would follow up on the ground and it would have ended then and there. Honestly, this is too easy for him. Because there's no rotation of the torso, the famous Wing Chun practitioner cannot turn into the optimum range of his anatomy. He has to get in closer than Xu, due to the difference in technique. Also, the poor ability to leave the pocket or strike range due to the philosophy of flurry or volume striking ensures famous Wing Chun will always be in range to tie up with. This means grappling is virtually a hard counter to this style. For Xu and his more wholesome discipline, this is just too easy. Famous Wing Chun keys onto what is happening. He becomes more hesitant. He now switches to oblique kicks. Now, oblique kicks are a strong technique. Good for distancing, can cause long-term damage to the ligament and tendons to slow down movement. But with any technique used too often, it can be read, then countered. Here, Xu felt the first one, then, making the read, stepped in and out of the way, which caused famous Wing Chun to be off balance. He had to recover from the momentum transfer, but the window of recovery was too big. Xu locks on to the opportunity. Boom! Famous Wing Chun has no choice but to get rocked, especially if you consider the long arm extension he uses. Honestly, this just is not fair. Even if Xu takes a shot, Xu, by using a more direct philosophy to generate power, can just eat the shot than trade his baseball pitch hip rotation to do way more damage with his punch. Even if they just stood in front of each other and played shot for shot to the face, Xu would win, simply because each punch is just way more significant. Now, the honest truth is, there is a lot I do not know about Wing Chun. It is one of the disciplines I've not trained in. But to think a limited style would stand a chance versus a bigger opponent using a much more wholesome one is just asking for embarrassment. If you put pure boxing by itself in an MMA cage, it will probably lose. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is mixed martial arts alongside possessing its own unique knowledge advantage, explaining the success the Gracie's had. That said, I don't know what Wing Chun was trying to prove. To step into this in the first place, it had to be a derivative of ego. Because at the end of the day, even mixed martial arts is constantly evolving, it's becoming better and better. To think a fixed or constant discipline can have anything more than luck versus a philosophy forged through perpetual trial and error, that is just pure ego. This was not a video bashing Wing Chun, but one bashing the ego of those who think they can get by on one ideology when the world is in a constant state of change. We're perpetually changing, we're always evolving. This does not cheapen an individual art form. It simply says we can always learn and grow. We can always become better. And I believe we humble ourselves to this truth of Mother Nature or get smashed. Now, to highlight some effectiveness of Wing Chun, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I have seen Tony Ferguson train and implement a bit of Wing Chun with success. But again, we must remember he is a constantly evolving mixed martial artist. If you'd like more from me, please subscribe. It's definitely great for the channel. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. It's good karma. And until next time, peace.